an amazing fact. There are more bugs in your intestinal system, in your microbiome, than people on this entire planet. It's amazing.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Heal Your Gut, Save Your Brain. I am Callie Nandi, and I'm here with my husband, Partha Nandi, gastroenterologist extraordinaire. And segment 2, we are actually talking about understanding gut health and all the ins and outs of the microbiome today and so much more. So Partha, let's get back to the basics.
It's such a huge part of life, but we just don't talk about it. And a lot of people, because of that mystery, can talk about gut health and just talk about all kinds of craziness. And I think that it's important to define it, right? And I think it's important to talk about it. It's important to talk to your doctor about it. It's important to express when you have problems. And a lot of people, I mean, even in the people that we're working with today, probably half the people here either know somebody or themselves suffer from bad gut health, or they could do better with gut health. I was talking to one of our members of our team, and she said, well, doesn't everybody have problems? Because it's just, if you don't watch it, it's inevitable. And this is what we think, right? So that's why it's so important to define gut health and understand what it is. And not just, you can go on TikTok and anybody with a phone can tell you what it is. And so we'd like to be able to at least, I mean, and so people are listening to it. And as long as you get enough people watching it, it's true. So we're trying to give you some, at least our perspective from 2 decades of practice and our families living it and seeing the effects of it. I mean, seeing the effects of what it can do. So I think that's why gut health is so important. But you asked, like, what exactly happens in there, right? So we talk to our kids about, and especially not all of our kids are extremely thrilled when we give them a rutabaga or
Brussels sprout.
Or Brussels sprout. Your favorite?
My favorite.
Yeah, I've learned that. I used to not love Brussels. I never disliked them, but now I like those little cabbages. I call them little cabbages.
Good.
The little cabbages, aren't they?
Yes.
Little cruciferous little things. They're very good, but depends on how you make them. So we talk to our kids about it. And when we talk to them, I think it always helps, right? When you tell them exactly what goes on. So what exactly happens as it travels down? Why is it important to get stuff that's good? Like, why should we have a Brussels sprout versus, like, I don't know, an Egg McMuffin, right? I mean, what's the difference? And so when you eat food, you chew it up, right? That's the main thing. And even in your saliva, you start having breaking down of the food.
That's
right? So your salivary glands produce enzymes that can start digesting it. So it's important. And by the way, this is why, to me, sitting down, we try to sit down 95% of the time, even if you have different schedules, to be able to eat together for community. And we love talking as a family about stuff. I ask kids questions. You ask them what's been going on in their lives. And so it's good that way. But also, your body gets ready to eat. Your eating should be joyful. It shouldn't be like, I'm just going to fit it in because I have to. I've heard people say, God, I wish I didn't have to eat because it's such a chore.
I also think it trains your brain. Like, this is what we're doing at this moment. And I think it helps prevent future snacking. And you're like telling your brain, this is the time I'm sitting down to eat. And this is how I'm nourishing my body with my family.
And behavior. So you're talking about trained behaviors that you put in a schedule. Yeah, absolutely. And then when you tell your brain that, it starts getting ready. Mm-hmm. It starts getting ready to eat. And so then your phase of digestion starts, like it's going to get ready. So your salivary glands are ready. And then you start getting enzymes that start digesting the food, right? Then you eat it. It goes in your esophagus, and your esophagus is a conduit, but it moves. It moves food down into your stomach. And your stomach's main job is to grind those particles up into small enough bites that it gets into the intestine. The stomach is acidic, right? So, when we didn't have all of the hygiene stuff to purify our foods and make them what they are, we would eat whatever we could. The stomach was a great place for things to not be infectious, for example. Mm-hmm. So is very acidic. Very little can live through that, right? So it's extremely acidic. So the pH is very low, and so the food gets in there, and you can it's almost like a natural antibiotic, so to speak, right? And then it gets ground into little tiny pieces, goes in the small intestine, which is called the duodenum, and the duodenum also is another place where absorption can start to begin, and then you have stuff that's secreted or squirted from the gallbladder, which is bile, helps to digest all the fats, and then stuff that comes through from the pancreas to be able to digest proteins and fats. And then it goes into in the other parts of your intestine, your small intestine, and gets absorbed. So it makes that whole journey. So if you have foods that are, that your body hasn't seen. So remember, until, 50 years ago, we didn't have these fast food, whatever concoctions, right? Of these things that are put together in factories.
Nuggets.
Correct. Yeah. Nobody knows what's in nuggets, right? Or spam,
Nobody
for example.
knows what is in there.
Do you know there's some dishes that actually call for spam? It's unbelievable. But I digress. So when you imagine spam goes into the intestine, it doesn't know what to do with it.
It doesn't know what to do with it.
It doesn't know what to do with it. Now you have the beginnings of problems in the intestine. It now has the job, because there's millions of little particles that are coming through, and your intestine now has to the whole border patrol for the intestines figure out, what do you think? What do you think, Bill? You think this guy, what do you think? You've never seen him before. Does he look okay? And then they have to make that decision of whether to attack it,
yes,
thinking it's something foreign, or absorb it. So if you give the intestine multiple times of these things that are foreign, guess what begins to happen? Inflammation, right? We'll get to that, but inflammation begins, and so when you eat these fast foods,
because they are foreign.
Right, foreign,
and
especially foreign to us because we haven't had enough time to be able to do this. It's been 50 years, and we've had a million years of the other foods. Yes. Or thousands and thousands at least, right? So do you see a difference? It just hasn't enough time to adjust. And so that's why we tell our kids, when you give it that factory-filled food, that's when you start beginning inflammation. And inflammation in the gut doesn't always just stay in the gut. Remember, I think we've talked about this before, but if we haven't, remember, between stool over here and blood is one cell layer thick. And this is coming through.
It's important to repeat, to be honest.
All of these little processed foods that are in factories are coming through. And then if you have inflammation, that one cell layer that's preventing poop from going into the blood, starts to become weak. When it starts to become weak, that's a problem, not just for your gut, but for the rest of your body. So we have an epidemic of autoimmune disease, right? Everywhere you go, you see people with diabetes, autoimmune disease, eczema, autoimmune disease, often with lupus, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis. It seems like it's everywhere.
Arthritis, yeah.
We are watching TV and our son says, boy, there are a lot of medical commercials. Right?
It was last night.
Yeah, I said, quite a lot of medical commercials. And I said the reason why is because of the stuff that we are doing that's causing these problems. We never associate the fact that we are having processed foods every day and not eating real whole foods, right? Because every time you open, turn on the TV or your phone or wherever you go, you're seeing these delicious, mouth-watering things that resemble food,
but aren't. Well, I like when you just describe the microbiome as like a symphony, because that microbiome has all the different players in there working in harmony together. And when I found out the microbiome weighs like 2 to 4 pounds, I freaked out. I was like,
right?
That is a lot of work going on. 2 to 4 pounds? That's
huge.
Nuts. You really got to feed that bad boy.
Things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so again, going back to what we're talking about with the particle of food going through, not only does it mess with your immune system of your gut, it also messes with these bugs that you're talking about weighing 2 to 4 pounds, right? These bugs. So the other part of the gut health is so important, besides the components of your body's gut and its cells, are this trillion member army that we call the microbiome. So bacteria, virus, fungi, protozoa, all there. And they've been there for thousands of years, kind of like we've all taken this journey together. And we were talking before we started rolling the tape that, that our moms, right, are so important, because so much of the microbiome when we were babies come from our mom, and that microbiome then develops over time to give you your own signature microbiome. Like my microbiome is different than yours, right? And so that.
But is it more in harmony now than it was when we weren't living together? Because don't we have similar bugs because we live in the house and we eat the same foods and all that stuff?
We do, but what happens is that the microbiome that we developed when we were small children are still there, and we are feeding them better stuff to get better products as well. And you could also try to change the composition, but we still have different. It's almost like our signature. It's interesting. It's like our fingerprint. We all have different kind of. Even if we are living together, there'll be similar products that are produced from the bugs. So it's almost like, let me give you an example. If I give let's talk about the symphony, the orchestra. If you give your orchestra, the same kind of liner notes or the songs, right? And you give mine, we may play the same song, a little bit different. Maybe but the same song will be playing, and that's what we're doing. We're giving him the same songs to play by giving the same input, right? But our kind of orchestra is a little different, and so when the food's going down there, if I give it Brussels sprouts, you got harmonizing there. They're like, this is great. I love him. I love her. And then if you give it that stuff that we give a lot, like whatever concoction that you give that's processed, they're like, oh God, okay, all right, Bill, we gotta deal with this now. Not the immune system. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about the cells that are lining it, the microbiome themselves. And you then feed preferentially the ones that are not helping you as much. There's always a war in there. It's hard to describe, but in the gut, there's a war between the bugs that are
the good
better,
ones and the bad ones.
Correct. And they're fighting all the time. And what you're doing is it's kind of supplying arms when you give them processed bad fats, a pepperoni pizza, a triple cheeseburger with ooey gooey fries that are also, even better. What do you get those chili fries with a double cheeseburger?
Cheese.
Yeah, it tastes so good, right? But the bugs are like dying. They're like, oh my God, they just launched a missile again. But you're giving help to the bad bugs. When you give help to the bad bugs, they produce stuff that is pro-inflammatory, right? They're helping your body not be healthy because they're just caring about themselves. It's a metaphor, but they're caring about themselves. They're not caring about how to harmonize. So that's also really, really important to understand that your microbiome is so important. The microbiome helps in at least 3 concrete ways. Number one, it is helping your immune system to be strong. So the Border Patrol, it's giving them the help. For example, some of the bacteria that we have actually produce short-chain fatty acids. Those short-chain fatty acids, they actually make the wall, that 1 cell layer thick wall, stronger so that stuff doesn't get through. So immune system is one. Number 2 is neurotransmitters. So there's a communication system, right, between the brain and the gut, and it makes the neurotransmitters. It makes products that actually can help you to be happier. So serotonin is the feel-good hormone. We got tons of drugs that actually take care of it. But you've got bugs that are actually making this. So imagine if you eat the right things every single day, you have a better chance of being happy. Amazing, right?
It's amazing.
Not just that you have a better chance of being healthy, but you're a better chance of living a joyful life. And that's the key. So second thing is it's making stuff that's actually helping you to be able to function with your heart, with your lungs, with your brain. It's unbelievable, the stuff that it makes. The third one is actually helps you with digestion. So when you're putting carbs in there and you're putting different foods, it actually helps you with the digestion of them. And so it is.
So in theory, could it help with weight management when you're eating?
100%. And in fact, you have bugs that are firmicutes that have been around for a very long time, millions of years, and they can actually help with creating products that can actually help you with weight management.
So we don't need
control.
injections?
Not everybody needs those injections. That's right. But so much easier to ask your doctor for injections than actually go into the kitchen, right?
That's what I'm saying. I just feel like if people looked at the root cause, I mean, there's so much money, time, energy. If they think to themselves, oh, it'd just be easier to DoorDash. Well, let's just fast forward 5-10 years down the road when they're like, is it easier to have appointments with the doctors? Is it easier to buy medicines to heal your stomach or medicines to heal your skin infections? I just don't understand.
Or is it easier to deal with the side effects 5 years later when you find out that these injections that are miracles
And the cost
could cause
of it.
some problems? I'm not saying they will, but it's like, the problem is that people are trained to just
do the
easiest, quickest thing, right?
Yeah.
That's what we've been told. We try with our kids to let them know that you have to be able to do a process because you work to get to a problem and you do it the right way and it'll pay dividends later on. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, and I think we're trained to, take the self-care and whatever, DoorDash the food and have a lazy day in front of the TV. But I just don't understand. If you put your device away and create space in your brain, you're like, okay, I've got some energy to go to the farmer's market or go to the grocery store and make some fresh, interesting new dish tonight, which is also a part of my artistic expression in the world.
It's a mindset. And so this is kind of what we're talking about to get people that mindset. I don't think it's easy. I really don't. Because what happens is that you're given many instructions not to do that. Like everywhere you go.
Well, like I said in the first podcast, but in case anyone didn't see it, I mean, I think that if they just think about that one choice. It's not the hamburger a day that kept the doctor away. It's that one choice of the apple. If you just make those one choices multiple times in one day, suddenly after a couple days, couple weeks, you will have changed your whole life and you don't even crave the crap that you used to. As a matter of fact, when you have it again, your body starts rejecting it.
But even before that, they have to have a reason to do it, right? So to me, the reason why people don't do it is because they don't have
Nothing's broken yet.
Well, that, and also they're not purpose driven. Well, last time, to ask somebody the next time you talk to somebody, like, what is your purpose? What do you really want to accomplish beyond just what's in front of you or today? But very few people think about that. When you have purpose driven lives, right? I talk about LeBron James because I'm a sports fan. LeBron, he is 39 years old. He's accomplished everything.
Do you think he's purpose driven?
A little bit, right? So the guy's like shooting 3,000 shots in the summertime. So, and why does he not have to think about that? Because he's like, I want to be the best at everything I do because of these consequences. I want to teach my kids that. You don't have to be LeBron James. You can be the best teacher, the best husband, the best whatever you want. But once you take it one step back, it makes everything you're saying easy to do, right? We never have to tell our kids.
Do you hear our kids back there?
Oh, we do. Yeah.
That's okay. They're down there having fun.
We never have to tell our kids to plug their, Nintendo Switch, right? I mean, we don't have to ever.
Yeah.
We don't ever have to tell our kids to any of that. Why? Because they're purpose driven with that. They know that they want to be able to play that. If they don't plug it in, they won't play with it. So how do we then create these kinds of behaviors that are automatic? Because people go to the gym, they go, oh, I hate going to the gym. I don't want to do this. Or I hate cooking. If you can give them purpose, I think then you can move them forward. And you can move them forward. We can talk about things like this where, hey, you know what? If you do this, your gut microbiome can actually change the way you are and change not just your gut, but your health in general, right? And not make you bloated, but you can actually be happy.
Yeah,
people think that they want to make time, right, for all the stuff that they want to do. But yet, when they have the time, they don't know what to do except go on their device or do something that doesn't seem that meaningful. It's just that giving them the mindset to understand what it is they want to accomplish, I think then it follows. That's why the 5 pillars are so important to me.
Well, we have so many kids and adults, for that matter, that have, it's a mental health crisis here. We're always talking about, depression and anxiety and all this other stuff. And the gut sounds like with your book, it's going to help crack the code.
I think so.
So what do we need to do to create a healthier microbiome?
And I think it really goes back to my 5 pillars. I think this is where you can go back and say, okay, what can I do? And I think the most important one, at least to begin with, is your nutrition, right? So again, when you go back to your diet, what can you do to be able to have foods that are whole, foods that are not processed, and can we get stuff that's really good, filled with good bugs? Like, what'd you have for breakfast today?
Plain yogurt, blueberries. Like, I start my day
And
with
you got your coffee?
Coffee with collagen. hair, skin, and nails. And then
It's working, by the way. Just so you know. Lovely hair.
Thank you.
Love your hair.
Thanks. And then, yogurt with blueberries. And then a little bit later, I'll add a banana. I mean, I do really think about that. What I always talk about, what is that one thing that I can grip? So I'll like hard-boiled eggs. I'll do a hard-boiled egg for a snack. So, but yeah, this morning.
Yeah, I think that it's important to talk about, like, for example, yogurt, right? It's fermented. Fermented foods are, all of our kids have their favorite fermented food. So my oldest son, Partha, he loves cottage cheese. Right, both my other sons love yogurt. So we talk about fermented foods as a huge plus, because what you're doing is not only are you giving food, to your point, that you said we have different microbiome signatures, but can we then change it? Yes, if you can give more probiotics, which are the good bugs, in your food. So if you like sauerkraut, that's great. If you like kimchi, some people love kimchi, it's great. If you like real pickles, that's another source. Kefir, there's so many foods, and every culture has them, because before we had refrigeration, we had to do this, right? We had to preserve food. So if you have fermented foods, that can be a key to what you're doing to be able to help your gut health. The other part is movement. Right? I think that, we are we are creatures now of sitting on our butts all the time, right? Anything you want to do.
When you have 4 kids, that'll, you're not going to be sitting around.
You'd be surprised.
Yeah.
Be surprised. Because, you can have a culture.
We love skiing. We love playing basketball. You play basketball with them. You play football with them. I take them water skiing. We take them downhill skiing.
But I'll tell you, a lot of people don't. You sit on that couch, all 4 of us sitting there with our devices, sitting there.
Yeah, family
food.
time.
Yeah, family time, right? We all look down at our own individual ones. That's what's happening. I think we're doing our best, and outside of, no judgment on people. They're doing what the best they can, but we can do better as a society. So what happens if you just do simple movement, your gut changes. Why? Because when you start moving, blood goes throughout your whole body, right? So I was doing some work, some audio work for our book that's coming out, and what I did was intermittently, because I was reading, I walked around, I ran around. And the reason why is because
so good for you on so many different levels. Just even getting the exercise, but even giving your brain and your eyes some space away from that.
But also your gut.
Yes.
When you move, the blood is going into your gut, and your gut is getting the blood supply and the movement, but you're also getting what's called energy homeostasis. So what that means in English is that you're supplying the energy in such a way that you're making the system efficient and available for the gut microbiome. So when you're actually changing the health of your gut when you're moving. So I think that to begin with would be great. And then I think it's okay to take a supplement with a probiotic. You're actually taking something that's palatable, and it's medicine. So I think a probiotic and a prebiotic is phenomenal, because it actually gives you that extra boost you need. So I talked about probiotics. What are prebiotics? Prebiotics are the food for the probiotics so they can grow faster. So imagine if you have trillions of bugs in your intestinal system. Most probiotics have billions, right? This is an amazing fact. There are more bugs in your intestinal system, in your microbiome, than people on this entire planet. It's amazing. And that's how critical the microbiome is to your body.
I wanted to take you back to something that you've been talking about, is this one cell layer thick conversation.
Yeah.
Because, this buzzworthy term, leaky gut, it's really everywhere, and it's really ominous. So I wanted to just kind of dissect what is leaky gut and how can it wreak havoc on our lives.
So it's funny, right, Kelly? So when I was training, we were told that leaky gut is just like kind of myth, and it's all a bunch of crap, and it's like it doesn't exist. Yeah, it's woo, and people are imagining it's in their head, right? So this is how we met. She's a nurse, I'm a doctor, and so the connections are right there, because we talk about medicine, so we can talk about this stuff. But when I was training, they thought, oh, these people are just imagining this. So we went from, and functional doctors.
Yeah, I was going to say it started with like functional doctors and chiropractors.
They are the non-traditional medicine doctors, right? They're the ones you'd go to and you couldn't find answers from your general doctor. And so you go to a functional doctor, they say, oh, you have leaky gut. You go to a doctor that's trained traditionally, they go, well, I don't know what that is. Let's give you something. I never got better. Now We know leaky gut, there's a new name for it. It's called intestinal permeability. And now traditional medicine, which is I'm part of,
Right. And
we accept it and we say, oh, it works. So what is that? What does leaky gut mean? So remember, that's one cell layer thick, right? Between poop and blood. That's one cell layer thick when it has little tiny little kinks in the armor. I mean, little tiny openings, not big enough for you to see, but you can see in electron microscopy that little particles can go through, not little particles that you've eaten that have been processed, but also metabolites or byproducts from bugs. So remember the CIA, the FBI, all the border patrol, the army that's there. They see this stuff coming through. They go, oh, attack! They're going like, we got to get them down.
Missiles.
You know, it's like you ever seen those like a television shows a long time ago, Bad Boys. They're like, oh, come in and jump on him, right? Well, but it's not alive, right? And it causes inflammation. Remember, when you have a cold, most of your symptoms are from your immune system attacking the bug.
Right.
So imagine if you have microscopic little areas of inflammation in your gut. Not bad enough, right, for you to feel sick. If it happens once in a while, it's okay. But if it happens several times a day, thousands and thousands of times, that inflammation starts to cause issues. Not only are
and
the
for
cracks,
every person it's different. It could be
different, but think about this: the cracks get bigger, right? Because as you're bombarding that area, you get weakening of that system, and that inflammation that's created in the gut doesn't just stay in the gut; it goes via your bloodstream. Remember, poop, blood, so it's going into the bloodstream. Little microscopic particles. It goes in the bloodstream, goes everywhere. So, like you just said, could it be going to your joints and give you problems with joint
arthritis
pain, skin problems, right? Or brain. And when it goes to your brain, it's an even bigger problem because there's a blood-brain barrier. And we've talked about this, you and I. So the blood-brain barrier, the brain doesn't want anything to come inside,
it's
right?
a complete protection.
Yeah, and it protects it so very little can get through. But if you continue to bombard it with stuff that's coming from the gut because it's escaping, because these little particles, the toxins that are coming in. We talk about something called lipopolysaccharides, so LPS. If it's going through and you've got other toxins that are coming in and damaging it. So I give the example of Constantinople, and anybody who knows history will talk about Constantinople, right?
I think you should tell everyone.
It's
just in case.
It's Istanbul, right? It's now called Istanbul, but Constantinople for centuries stood like they basically created a huge fortress of walls that were super thick, and then came, and I believe it was Mehmet II. He was from the Ottoman Empire. So what he said was, I am going to take them down. What he did was constantly bombard this wall day and night. Bam, 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 until that wall broke. And when that wall broke, the dam was open, all the invaders went in and basically took over. And what was Constantinople now became Istanbul, right? So imagine the same analogy with your blood-brain barrier. Bam, bam, bam. With these toxins, with these invaders that are coming in, they're not from the Ottoman Empire.
Nuggets.
They're from your food and the crap that you're doing.
Yeah.
Not just the food that you're eating, but the stress you're putting your body
cortisol.
through, right? The continuous, like, I'm gonna be in the job that I hate. I'm gonna be in a marriage that I can't stand. I'm gonna be in doing all the things that are gonna cause my body unrest, create cortisol, inflammation. So food we just talked about, but any of those 5 pillars, if you're not following them well, you could cause unrest in your body. So again, the analogy is you're not having the Ottoman Empire bomb it. You're talking about your own body
it's like
bombing
keep
it.
Picking the scab.
Correct. And then it's open. And then once it's open, then the brain is now susceptible to inflammation. And when the brain gets inflammation, you got these things like Alzheimer's that come in. You got these things like Parkinson's that come in. You got all kinds of diseases that are coming in, and we're all baffled. We're baffled. How is it that we have an epidemic with Alzheimer's?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what's going on. Stop calling DoorDash. Get off your butt. Go cook. Stay with your family and your community. Get off your devices. Have purpose-driven lives.
It's
right?
also in the way you look at it. I think people think that's like so much work, but it's like this elderly man I used to live next to her. His name was Bill. Such a lovely, lovely man. And I would say he was in his 90s. I would say, well, Bill, how was your dinner tonight? And he'd go, well, depends on the way you look at it. Right.
So it's a mindset change. If you can make that mindset, then I think we've got a shot at not having a world crisis of Alzheimer's. It's not a small problem. It's a huge problem, because not only are you dying, but you're basically taking your loved ones with you. Because imagine watching your parents or your spouse. It's gut-wrenching, right? And you could just make simple changes. I remember, well, you knew Sally.
Yeah.
Better than anybody. Sally is
My
her
grandma.
Yeah. Tell us about Sally.
Well, Sally had a really, really big personality, and she had Parkinson's. But one of the things she taught me, and I tell everyone, is that she was like Hummingbird. She would take us to the little country club they belonged to, where they golfed in their little small town. And she would take me table to table to table and teach me and introduce me to all. Now, everyone here, Mr. and Mrs. Zarell, this is my granddaughter, Callie. And then she would make me, respond, oh, hi, Mr. and Mrs. Zarell. So she really taught me a lot about human interaction and personality. She was like larger than life, but she ended up getting Parkinson's, and it was just devastating to watch that happen.
Took away her spark. I knew
she
Sally.
had no spark at the end. There was no expression that.
And if you know Callie, right?
personality.
She is what Sally was. I mean, if we ever go somewhere, you're like, hello, and you say hello to everybody, and you make friends so quickly, and you're vivacious, and you've got so much charisma. And I think that's what Sally was. And Parkinson's took that away.
They did.
And so when we talk
It
about
dimmed
these,
her light.
these are problems that I bet you anybody who's watching, they can find either somebody they know personally in their lives or one of their friends know. This affects everybody. And so in Parkinson's, what we're doing is we're going and attacking a part of the body called the substantia nigra, and that produces dopamine, right? So this disease is characterized by decreasing the dopamine. But you can see, if you check out the microbiome and if you check out the gut health of folks with Parkinson's, you'll notice that they have a distinct features to them. And so again, it's hard to say to people when they're in the throes of it to change it. You still can. You can still make it better. But the time is not when you're always having the problem, but before. So we have an opportunity to be able to prevent some of these issues by making simple changes. And so, I would have loved our kids to have seen the best of Sally, right?
And the best of your dad.
Exactly. And so these are the things we're doing that are real life that could really change things.
So besides changing your, what you're ingesting, what can we do to decrease inflammation?
Yeah. And so the whole idea of inflammation, I should talk about that. The whole idea of inflammation is this black box, right? People think, what the heck is it? Inflammation is your body's response to either an infection or something that's an offending agent. So what that means is something that's not supposed to be there or irritating. And it helps us to really thrive, because when we have something that's trying to attack our body or doing something damaging, our body develops a response, right? And attacks it. So that's inflammation. But when inflammation is inappropriate, right? When you're, for example, attacking the pancreas inappropriately, you have diabetes, right? When you're attacking the colon when there's no infection, you have ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease. So again, it goes back to what we talked about, where you have the beginnings of inflammation in the gut, and that inflammation then travels to other places. So in ulcerative colitis and Crohn's, it's happening right there. The inflammation of the gut. You wouldn't believe, some of the studies have shown that if you change your diet pretty dramatically, how much you can control your Crohn's disease. And you know
you've
this.
seen that. I'm sure you've seen that.
A ton of it. Yeah. And you know this because Callie used to be a specialist in looking at inflammatory bowel disease when you were a nurse and practicing and talking about some of the medicines that help with it. you can give what's called a fecal transplant. So
This
people
is
who don't know this,
fascinating.
right? You take the stool from a healthy patient and put it into the colon or the intestine of a patient with a diseased
you
colon,
guys
like
know that?
Crohn's disease,
Yeah.
Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis. It can change the disease, and you often have remission. Now, we're not suggesting you try to take blend stool from your neighbor and
Please
try
don't
to
do
put it
that.
up your rectum. It is not what we're talking about. We're talking about a concept here. You would not believe people have done that. Oh, heck yes, man. You would not believe the things I hear. So don't do that. But the concept is this. When you are putting stool, we, of course, we check it for infection. We blend it and do all this.
you
I've
guys
done
spin
plenty
it,
of
you do
this.
all this.
When I did it with colonoscopies, but now they have different ways that you can give it. But what are you doing? You're giving a load of their microbiome and their healthy gut. And you take that and literally you can change their lives. Another example, C. diff colitis. So there's an infection called Clostridium difficile, right? That's an infection that can absolutely take your life. It's a horrendous infection called C.
C.
diff.
diff.
Right.
Terrible.
And so you have people with C. diff that's recurrent, meaning that antibiotics are not helping them. You can give a fecal transplant or the microbiome from a healthy person. And if you do that, I have seen a person debilitated, could not get out of bed, literally hours later.
So do those bugs, 'cause like you said, how we talked about when you get them from your mother and you have them since you're a baby, when you do fecal transplant, do they stay there then with us?
You
continue to feed them?
Most of it stays there because you're giving such a load of them. You're giving you're basically coming in. So imagine you're losing the war, right? Your
army.
city is burning. And then you get like some huge vehicle just airlifting and air dropping, I should say,
Yeah,
a trillion
all the
member army
soldiers.
of like people, healthy microbiome and healthy bugs, and they come in and they compete with the C. diff and kick their butts. That's amazing. And the change, I'm not exaggerating, within hours or better, and not just better, like they're not having 15 bowel movements or hurting. They can get out of bed. So it's dramatic. So those examples are to show that, we actually can do a lot, right? We can do a lot to be able to change the equation in this. And you asked what else we can do besides diet. So I think number one is, I talk about movement. I think spirituality and community help in this way, that you actually can decrease the unrest, right? Interestingly, the definition of disease is what? Dis-ease. When your body is not at homeostasis, when it's not balanced, it's dis-ease. So when you take your microbiome, right, and your inflammatory status, and you make it imbalanced by giving what? Unopposed cortisol. When you are having no community, you're by
Right.
yourself,
Right.
you have no support, you have no spirituality, you have unopposed what? Inflammation and unrest in your body. And when you have unrest in your body, it translates to the rest of your gut and the rest of your body, so it doesn't produce as much. It produces more cortisol, rather, when you don't have the spirituality, when you don't have the community. So when you have community and
So
spirituality, you reduce,
meditation, mindfulness.
right, and you reduce the inflammation, you reduce the cortisol, that reduces the inflammatory response in your gut, and that's how you modulate gut health, through those pillars. And so whatever you can do to reduce the unrest, it's basically unopposed stress. There's something called the fight or flight response. We should talk about that. So fight or flight is this, and many of you may know this, but I'll go over it again, is that when we were hunter-gatherers thousands of years ago, our goal was to eat lunch and not be lunch. It was always not be lunch. So that was our fight or flight. If we saw something that was dangerous, we had to make a decision like that: run or hunt or kill, right? And those instincts have not left us, right? That allowed us to survive or thrive. But in this day and age, there are no tigers chasing us in most parts of the world. Like here, there's nobody chasing you. There are people giving me the wrong finger when I'm driving, but that's about it. And those kinds of things stress you out. And if it happens once in a while, it's no problem. But if it happens continually, that fight or flight response, it goes and it's inappropriate. So it continues unabated. So that stress is there, the cortisol is there, but it's for no reason at all. That begins inflammation. And that's why those other pillars within, the 5-pillar method really help to reduce inflammation and reduce your gut health from being poor, and then consequently your brain health and the rest of your body. And I think that's really important to understand, because it's not intuitive to say, why would that help my gut? It's because what happens when you actually deal with it and control it. And we're not given methodologies. I often tell my patients that have Crohn's disease, how do you reduce your stress? What do you do for spirituality?
I don't think a lot of physicians are asking those questions.
Well, nobody has that. Most of my patients, nobody's asked them, and they don't have an answer because they've never thought about it. And I tell them, the first step is just think about your breath. Imagine you taking a breath from your nose and it's going in your lungs. Think about that pathway. And to me, when you think about that, you're not thinking about whatever it is that's bothering you just for that minute. I mean, and if you guys are watching or listening, think about the last time you actually thought about just taking a breath and nothing else. Most people, it's been years. Because you're constantly going from one task to another and figuring out what to do. And when we have the time, you're on your device that's constantly bombarding your brain. So I think those are important concepts for people to understand as it relates to gut health and having optimal gut health. It's not always, give me the hack, give me this, or give me that, and it'll be good.
Yeah, because the other thing is that we were talking about is that people do all this stuff to their body and then they need a medicine to fix it. So antibiotics are like a big treatment. Obviously, they help and they save a lot of lives. But what's the downside of things like antibiotics?
Yeah, and that's a very tough question, right? Because you don't want to give the people, there are people that are extremes that, I mean, they have a nearly potentially life-threatening infection, and they will not take an antibiotic because I've heard that it's really bad. So I get that, but also when it's given appropriately, it's life-saving. Having said that, people come to me and say, I ask them, so what's bothering you? And their chief complaint is, give me an antibiotic, doc. I already know it. It's just, let's cut the chase. I know what you're gonna do. Just give me the damn antibiotic, it'll be done. Waste your time, and I'm gonna waste my time. Let's give it to me and let's go. Then I go a step back and I say, so what's going on? Well, I got this little, runny kind of thing. I got it. We got to get some antibiotics. I go, well, there's viruses that cause this. What do you mean viruses? Yeah, most of these things are viruses, and your antibiotics won't do anything for it. And by the way, when you give an antibiotic, it's like a cruise missile nuclear weapon to your microbiome. I mean, it's coming and it destroys. And did you know that it often takes months to replenish that microbiome? And it may not be replenished with the right stuff, because if you then, after your antibiotic, you take your cheeseburgers with the onion rings and make sure you give me that zippy sauce with it, you're going to create an army of bad bacteria. And you have no idea why, you've got headaches and you've got brain fog. So this is what happens. So it's a dramatic story about an antibiotic, but people do it all the time. And kids also. I got earache, antibiotics, right? And I bet you in this room with our crew, you ask at least 1 out of 3 people will have had antibiotics multiple times as a child. Our 4-year-old, I think we've given him antibiotics once.
Yeah, I think
once.
So.
And because he was, really sick, and I think he had strep throat. But it's okay to give that. But when you give it constantly and you use antibiotics inappropriately, it can devastate your microbiome. And you're not given also tools to be able to replenish. So antibiotics are a big deal, and other medications as well. When you give medications that are, for example, NSAIDs, so Motrin, Aleve, Nuprin, those kinds of things, when you continue to give those medications on a regular basis, they can also damage your intestine. It can damage your gut health. So you have to be careful
people
with
I don't
medication.
think understand that.
Oh no, it's like candy. Give me, I took my 800 Motrin 3 times a day. You just are destroying your gut health. And when you destroy your gut health, this is the beginning of the cascade towards having your gut and your brain and your heart and all having issues. Cardiac disease, number 1 killer, right? Number 1 killer in America. Cancer, it's in the top 3. So people have no idea why I'm seeing a 35-year-old person with colon cancer. And this is kind of what's happening, unfortunately.
When we talk about the evolution of gut health, what do you feel like? Do you feel like your patients are getting better, smarter? I mean, now that they have access to a little bit more content?
People don't know anything about gut health the most of the time because they've gotten so many different messages. But what's even more interesting is that I think we've never understood the importance of gut health. We just thought that even when I was in fellowship and training in my lifetime, we thought of the gut as just a digestive organ. Give it food, it pumps along, digests food, and then makes a bunch of poop and we're on our way. We had no idea about the central feature, the central role of the GI tract.
Yeah, it's like the
gut.
center of the universe of the body to me.
It absolutely is. And people knew this, right? We talked about this Ayurvedic medicine, Chinese medicine. You look at the earliest texts and people knew, the earliest medicine people knew that the gut was at the center. Now we're learning, right? That the factors that the gut make, we call them postbiotics. We talked about prebiotics, right? The food for the bugs. The probiotics are the bugs. The postbiotics are the products that they make. Short chain fatty acids, neurotransmitters. Those are the things that affect our lives, right? And you can actually get these supplements. But if you can change your gut to be able to actually make those products in the right manner, I think you'll do really well. So to answer your question, I think we're getting there, but not just patients, physicians and practitioners are finally getting, hey, you know what, maybe we should, if somebody is has a family history of Alzheimer's, maybe we should ask them, what are you eating?
Yeah.
And not just, we don't have anything right now, but if you have any memory problems, let us know. We'll see you in a year, right? Not a single conversation. And when I go back to my dad.
I feel like also this testing is not there. This is kind of off topic, but the testing is not there to diagnose the memory problems early enough. And this is what we saw with my dad. We knew because he was so high functioning, and of course your dad was extremely high functioning, but just the quick-wittedness of him, and we saw all of that declining. There are no tests to even get that early enough. That's why you have to be like your own advocate early. And we had to get him tested multiple times because they would just come back and say, "Oh no,
and they still don't have a diagnosis.
They don't think he has any memory problems." I'm like, this is not the same human being.
But but even let's say if you have a family history, right? If you have a family history, like that a person with the son or the daughter,
like my dad,
right, that has a family, they should be talking to, hey, what do you eat every day? Like, what's your diet plan? What's your nutritional status? Do you move? None of this is being said because the connection's not there. So to ask your question, have we come a long way? We have in the research, but it's a select few. I don't think of a single neurologist, right, that's asking, hey, what are you eating? Can you change your diet to be able to ward off this disease that's coming, to prevent this from happening? And that's why we're talking about it, right? We're talking about it because, to me, the connections, that the fact that you have the blood-brain barrier and neuroinflammatory factors that are being increased based on simple things like what you're eating. Do you have a purpose-based life? Do you have community? So that's, I think, where we need to be going. And I think, the next generation of doctors.
It takes guts. I mean, you have to put the work in. But like we're talking about, if you put it in now, it's going to prevent more doctor's appointments, more lotions, potions, and medicines to fix what's wrong. It's like, just start and build your house strong.
And we as practitioners have to let patients know that we're just not. So this is why talking about this hopefully sparks somebody's mind and says, I should talk to my doctor about what I should be eating. My dad and my uncle both had Alzheimer's, or my mom had Parkinson's. What can I be doing now? And that's what this is about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's so important.
It really is. And it's pretty cool that we can talk about it. And you get the thing about social and digital media, we kind of complain about it, but here's an opportunity where we can reach people that we couldn't before, right? That's the whole idea. I know you've asked me plenty of times, like, why did you go from just practicing to doing this? Is because you're able to reach people so they don't have the outcomes that my dad did, that Sally did, because this stuff is not inevitable. Your power is in your own hands, and you can be your own health hero. That's right. The idea.
That's right. Well, what do we have to look forward to in the upcoming episodes?
I think we're going to be talking about dis-ease, right? I kind of alluded to that, where when you have a patient with dis-ease, what kind of dis-ease of the diseases of the gut that we have, and how can we prevent that from happening? And if we do have it, how can we treat it? So I think it'll be good. It's what I do every single day.
And you're so good at it. I'm so glad you're able to talk to more people about what you're so passionate about. And I hope it really does change some people's lives. So everybody, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on
No curse words today.
Heal Your Gut, Save Your Brain.
It's very nice. You're getting.
Well, I was very riveted by the conversation today.
You're getting reformed.
That's right. I was
So there
very
is hope.
riveted. Make sure you never miss an episode by following on Apple Podcasts or subscribing wherever you listen.
And if you want to learn more, get a copy of my book, also titled Heal Your Gut, Save Your Brain, available everywhere books are sold, October 1st.